And the records we're asking for first, all policies related to how parents obtain school records on their child.
Being recorded can feel uncomfortable, but the truth is we're on camera all the time. Government centers, surveillance in public spaces, and even at schools. And sometimes it's necessary to show our work on camera, especially when law enforcement starts to chime in on our reporting.
We normally take everything in writing.
It's going to be pretty simple.
Okay. What's your name again?
My name is Susan Bassey.
Susan, can you spell your last name?
B as in boy, A-S-S-I. And my email where I would like the records sent.
As a reminder, you don't need to give your name or your contact information when making a public records request, especially if you're fearful of First Amendment retaliation. And here, I'm making some records requests on behalf of a group of court watchers.
So women,
Women, yes. SV, courtwatch@gmail.com.
or watch like you're watching somebody.
Yeah, courtwatch, COURTWATCH, @gmail.com.
This video is about what we don't see when reporting on the courts and law enforcement at a local level. After a Santa Clara police officer recently told a mother that our reporting was defamatory in nature and aimed at a father involved in a child custody dispute, it caught our attention. Because here was the problem. The father was unmarried and his family court cases were confidential, meaning unless it was part of his official duties, the police officer wouldn't be able to read those files. And defamation is not a crime. It's not something that police officers are trained in or responsible for enforcing. So we started digging. We went to several police departments and school districts in Sunnyvale to obtain records on a young man who's just turned 18 and who was at the center of a child custody dispute involving unmarried parents. The child's story raises bigger questions. How cases are treated differently depending on whether parents are married or not. Because under California law, when parents are unmarried, family court records are confidential. And that means that the public, the press, and police officers who are not on duty cannot access them. If parents had been married, however, the exact same case would have been public, open to scrutiny by anyone. This young man's childhood was consumed by family court litigation that lasted over 17 years. And just before he turned 18, he had been placed on 2 involuntary mental health holds, put in the full custody of his father, and made the protected party in a lifetime restraining order against his own mother. An order brought at the request of his court-appointed minors counsel, Arthur Lynn, who argued the boy feared his mother and wouldn't be able to afford an attorney once he turned 18 in order to obtain the restraining order on his own. Judge Jessica Delgado granted the order without a court reporter present and without hearing any testimony from the child. The child, who was reportedly present in the case, had his camera dark and never spoke a word during the hearing, causing court observers to question whether he was present at all when he obtained his win through his court-appointed minors counsel. But what didn't that minors counsel disclose at the time he claimed the child was fearful of his mother?
And then I'm looking for all records for the time period of 2015 to now that the district has with 2 nonprofits. One known as Cassie, CASSY, and one known as Women SV. And the records I'm looking for are grants, emails, trainings, and those 2 nonprofits focus on domestic violence and mental health issues.
Grants, emails, trainings.
Any communications to and from the district and those nonprofits or their agents.
At the time, the child's court-appointed attorney, Arthur Lynn, argued that the child should get a lifetime restraining order against his mother, the court-appointed attorney failed to disclose to the mother or to the court that the child was also being criminally prosecuted by the local district attorney in juvenile court. The child was being criminally prosecuted and faced prison time based on the allegations, and he was ultimately convicted and ordered to go into parenting classes in connection with his crime, but parenting classes just with his father, not the mother, who had been deemed reportedly the problem in the family court case and in the criminal case as well. And all of that was concealed not only from the child's mother, who is now restrained for a lifetime against her own son, who has a criminal conviction for sexually abusing young women. It was also concealed from the public that paid this young kid's salary when the school district elected to hire him and use him to interact with students and other staff members. And all of that was possible because the courts concealed the family law case involving unwed parents, and the district attorney elected to prosecute this young man as a minor just a few months before his 18th birthday, which might have had more to do with who the victims in the case's parents were than anything related to justice and fairness in our courts and our legal system.
All right.
What is your name?
Jesus.
Jesus, guess what? You nailed that.
We understand that most people might not feel confident and comfortable requesting records from school districts or police departments, but it's important when you do to make sure that you have a record of what you requested, and it's important to know who's taking these records requests and who's making the objections to the public getting them, because the more people that know what's going on related to our local family courts and our school and our police departments, the better, because that matters at a local level far more than it matters at a national level.
And also to Women SV Court Watch at gmail.com.
Excuse me, do you also have yearbooks from Fremont High School?
And the records we're asking for first, all policies related to how parents obtain school records. And number 2, all policies and procedures related to releasing records, especially in the instance where there may be a family law case, a criminal case, or a domestic violence restraining order or restraining order in place related to the child.
Can you go over those last three?
Sure.
Just so I can censor.
If there's a criminal case, a family law case, a domestic violence restraining order, or a civil harassment. And this should apply to students, staff, teachers, everything, how the district handles records and that kind of situation.
The number one rule in making any public records request is to always request records that you know exist or should exist, and policies and procedures are always an excellent way to start.
No, that's going on in the family court or the criminal court and juvenile dependency. I want to know what communications you guys get. So California had a law where if parents weren't married until 2023 and they ended up in a custody dispute, the files were all confidential. So he qualified for that. His parents were in a custody battle for 17 years. And so the school might not have had any access to those files as they would if their parents were in a divorce and a custody dispute related.
Okay.
But the law changed and now those cases are public, but he falls into the gray area when those cases were not public. And so I'm looking for, how do schools know that there's a problem with a kid that could be even a bigger problem later on? And when these young women reached out and complained to me, I went to police, I went to the minors council, the attorney appointed for him. So that's why I'm wanting to know what
This is a child?
It was a child, he's now 18. And somehow the district employed him in some position, and I don't know if it was when he was 18 or before. But that's a problem if the district had him in a volunteer position or any position of power outside of the rest of the student body. I want to know what that was, because I want to know, these young women came to me and I'm trying to find out what outlets would they have had other than reaching out to a reporter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'm a little confused about so you're saying this is a student who was our student at one time,
Yes.
but then was later, you believe, to be employed by our district?
Employed or used in a volunteer capacity, either
And
as
then a complaint has been made against them by
no complaint was ever made to the school. I'm telling you, the complaints were all in files the school wouldn't have known about. So what I'm investigating is, how would people know that there was this problem, or where they would go to complain if they weren't students of the school, or they were neighbors of somebody and they didn't have a direct relationship with the school. And if the school was employing him in a position, I want to know that, and I want to know what he was given access to, files of other students or anything else. I want to know what he would have had access to and how the school used him or employed him, either as a minor or as an adult. Okay.
Is that everything? Okay. I mean, there may be some things, if he was a student, that may be subject to privilege. This might be something that
There will be a legal, then the lawyers for the district would give me a legal objection, and I would either take it to court or subpoena or do whatever if it needed to be done.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.